The Hungaroring is the final stop of the season for the 24-hour series, a worldwide series of 12 and 24-hour endurance races organised by Creventic.
Yeah, we are here at Hungaroring. This is actually the sixth edition of the Hankook 12H Hungary, which is the last round of this season. We are already looking forward to 2015, where we are working on a championship. And for this race we have 6 races, 3 12-hour races and 3 24-hour races. Starting with the 24-hour race of Dubai. Then from there we go into the Hankook 12-hour race of Mugello in Italy. From there we go on to the Hankook 12-hour race of Zandvoort. Then new in our series is the Hankook 24 hours of Paul Ricard circuit. And from there we go further to Barcelona, 24-hour race. And then we hope to here be again next year again for the Hankook 12-hour race of Hungary. And then we have finished the season for 2015 already.
There are 4 categories competing this weekend. Class D1 for cars powered by diesel engines up to 2 litres. Class A5 is for petrol engine touring cars with a capacity of between 3 and 3.5 litres. SP2 is a class for specials like the Porsche 991 Cup car that don't fit into any other group. And finally, A6 is for GT3 spec cars, such as the Mercedes SLS AMG. The tyres for every class supplied by Hankook.
It's always a big pleasure for us to come to Hungary racetrack because it's one of the nicest tracks in whole Europe, together with the Creventic series, which is from my point of view one of the most interested series for the future, where we have all the cars, starts from the small Clio until the big SLS and Porsche cars. It's a really pleasure for us to be in here, and hopefully we will see a nice race tomorrow. The big job for us is to bring here approximately 1,000 tires for this event. For other events we have much more tires, up to several thousand of tires, because we have such big number of customers. We have all different kinds of sizes, starts from 15-inch until 19-inch. It's a big job for us, but we are proud to do it, and we are able to supply tires for all these category of cars.
Before the cars take to the track, the organisers hold a driver's briefing to run through the race regulations, discuss any issues that relate specifically to the circuit, and to answer any questions. The 24-hour series is aimed at gentlemen drivers, semi-pros and professional racers.
For this race we have 19 cars and teams and drivers from I think about up to 30 different countries from all over the world. We have teams from Australia even. There is a driver from Thailand, I think. There are obviously many Europeans, so it's a very international race. And that's what makes this series very interesting. It's the international characteristics. You race against people from all over the world, you meet different people, and it's kind of a family, and traveling around the world and enjoying what we all love, which is motorsport.
In qualifying, former British touring car star Tom Onslow-Cole sets the fastest time in Class D1 aboard the number 38 KPM Racing Golf. Lithuania's Saulius Vitkauskas was the early frontrunner in Class A5, taking his number 41 Team Remo BMW to a time of 1 minute 58.8 seconds. Though that would ultimately be beaten by experienced Belgian driver Vincent Redemacher at the wheel of the number 18 Team Ultron Peugeot. In SP2 there was a tight battle for second in class, as Netherlands-based Red Camel Racing took their Audi R8 into second place with a time of 1 minute 56.1 seconds. That turned out to be just 0.2 of a second quicker than the best time of the number 7 Porsche 991, run by the SPS Automotive Performance 2 squad. Comfortably topping the times in SP2 though were Team Zawatec Racing, more than 5 seconds quicker than their nearest rivals.
It was hard because I didn't know if I can maybe catch a GT3 car, and my goal was to maybe get a GT3 car. Yeah, and therefore I pushed really hard, could do a very good lap, which was really quick, but in the end it wasn't enough for a GT3 car, but I think I can feel confident with this result.
Predictably, the fight for overall pole position was between the more powerful GT3 cars. Even around the twisty 4.1-kilometre long circuit, where cornering ability outweighs the need for out-and-out power, the GT3 cars were some 17 seconds a lap quicker than the touring cars. Rolf Inisham putting the number 20 Stadler Motorsport Porsche third in class. Driving the number 4 Mercedes SLS, Germany's Lance David Arnold set a competitive time early in the qualifying session before handing over to teammate Tim Muller. The SPS Automotive Performance team held on to provisional pole for a large chunk of the 75-minute session. but ultimately they would have to settle for second on the grid, as their time was bettered by the similar machine of Hoffer Racing. At the end of qualifying, we caught up with Christian Frankenhout.
Yeah, very good, obviously. This is my first time here in Hungary, first time Hungaroring. I like the track very much. It's kind of tricky, and yeah, at the end we did a good job, and we have pole. But yeah, tomorrow we have the race. It's still a 12-hour race, and everything can happen. But yeah, the pole for the first time, it's okay. Now we have to see what tomorrow brings.
So, quickest in A6 and on overall pole, Hoffer Racing. SPA Automotive make it an all-Mercedes front row, with the Stadler Motorsport Porsche in third. Team Zauertech take a dominant class pole in SP2 from Red Camel Racing and SPS Automotive Performance 2. In A5, the Peugeots of Team Ultron finished first and third, with the Remo BMW sandwiched in between. KPM, DK Racing and Red Camel Jordans, the top three in D1. Early morning and dry weather greets the teams and drivers as they make their final preparations ahead of the 12-hour race. This event marks the fifth and final event of a busy season, which started with the 24 Hours of Dubai back in January and has taken in trips to Mugello, Zandvoort and Barcelona. An historic pole position for Hoffer Racing, since this marks the first time that Mercedes have appeared in the race. Alongside Lance David Arnold will start the number 4 SPS Automotive Mercedes from second on the grid, while the first of the Porsches is the 997 of Swiss team Stadler Motorsport in third. Fourth on the grid, the 997 of Team Zauertech, the best of the SP2 qualifiers. The Audi R8 of Red Camel Racing lines up fifth. There's Vincent Rademacher, who'll be lining up for Team Ultron in the Peugeot, and the KPM Golf, which starts from class pole in D1 with Tom Onslow Cole. And so the Hankook 12 Hours of Hungary thundered into life. We ride on board with Rolf Inischen in the Stadler Porsche from third on the grid. Into turn one, it was neck and neck between the two Mercedes, but with the inside line, the pole-seating number 1 car had the lead. Christian Frankenhout just ahead of Lance David Arnold in the number 4 Mercedes, with Rolf Inischen holding on to third and Lucas Schreier remaining fourth in the black Porsche. Back on board with Inischen, and up ahead the two Mercedes still running shoulder to shoulder in the battle for the lead. And then this fantastic move around the outside for Lance David Arnold puts the German ahead. Here's the view from the cockpit of Christian Frankenhout's Mercedes as he has to concede the race lead. Lance David Arnold, the new leader, looking comfortable in the Mercedes, although most of his early racing career was spent behind the wheel of various Porsches in the International Porsche Super Cup and the German Porsche Carrera Cup. These two race-leading Mercedes, both powered by huge 6.2-litre V8 engines, which deliver something like 500 horsepower to the rear wheels. As I said, the first time the marque has run at this event during its 6-year history, and quite some debuts so far. Over the line to complete the first lap of the race, Arnold leads Frankenhout. Then it's Rolf Inischen pressing in third and closing right up to the Mercedes under braking. Lucas Schreier still fourth in the black Team Zauertech 997. Having picked up the lead on lap 1, Arnold begins to stretch his advantage as the race develops, while Frankenhout in turn is able to put some breathing space between himself and Inischen. Lucas Schreier can't quite live with the GT3 cars, but continues untroubled in 4th place and builds his lead at the head of the SP2 class. And with such a wide variety of cars taking to the track, it's not long before the front runners begin to lap the more standardised cars. Further back, Kevin Veltman in the white and green Audi R8 of Red Camel Racing had managed to hold station in 5th place, but it was only just clear of Craig Jarvis in the number 7 SPS Automotive Performance Porsche, the pair racing for second in the SP2 class. But shortly thereafter, they swapped places as the Audi suddenly lost pace after what would be the beginnings of an engine problem, although there was no sign just yet of the car heading for retirement. In the A5 class for touring cars, the number 18 Peugeot of Team Ultron held the lead, though Vincent Rademacher was being kept honest by Marianas Samultis in the Remo Racing BMW. There was also a tight battle for third in class between the number 17 RTR Projects Cop Racing Z4 and the second Team Ultron Peugeot. 20 minutes into the race and there was a change for the class lead as Samultis squeezed past Rademacher on the run into turn 1, a tidy move from the Lithuanian. About 10 minutes after the BMW passed the Peugeot for the lead, there was a role reversal in the battle for third, as Johnny Niederhauser engineered this clever move on the exit to the chicane, putting his Peugeot clear of Sarai Polovets in the BMW Z4. Another Peugeot going in the right direction was Jens Henrik Hansen in the green and yellow number 32 car. This move putting him ahead of Tom Onslow Cole for the lead of Class D1. Quite some achievement, having started at the very back of the grid after the HM Motorsport team were forced to miss qualifying due to technical problems. Having dispatched with Onslow Cole, Hansen then got involved in an entertaining scrap with the number 46 Lexus, driven by Darius Boltra-Miunas. They ran together for a number of laps and almost ran into each other when Hansen locked up his brakes into turn 1. A hairy moment, but they just about got away with it and were able to immediately resume their battle. On board the Porsche of Dubai 24-hour winners Stadler Motorsport, and moving into the second hour of the race, Rob Inishen had done an excellent job of hanging on to the tail of both Mercedes. The top three still absolutely tied together. It had been a clean start to the race with no unscheduled pit stops, but now the time had come for the first batch of driver changes. Christian Frankenhout pitting to be replaced by Germany's Kenneth Heyer. Frankenhout heading down the pit lane as quickly as possible before slowing down in time to make sure he stayed within the pit lane speed limit. The number 1 Hoffa Racing Mercedes in from second place, and with the lead battle so tight, a well-executed pit stop could be the difference between moving into the lead or dropping back to third.
Well, we had a good start, but Lenz overtook me in the second corner. He took a little bit of a risk, but okay, he was in front. Then we were 1, 2, 3 all the time near each other. So yeah, it's a long distance race, so you don't have to take too much risk. But now we are in second place and we're catching the Porsche first, so we're okay, and I think we have the good strategy. So.
On lap 49, Lance David Arnold brought the number 4 Mercedes in from the lead of the race. Fellow German Valentin Pierberg sprinting into position as the gull-wing doors opened, ready for him to take over. A fresh set of boots for the SPS Automotive Run car before being quickly released on its way. Thanks to its superior fuel consumption, the Stadler Porsche was able to stay out for a further 20 minutes before Rolf Inishen was finally forced to pit from the lead and hand over to fellow Swiss Adrian Amstutz. The BMW would rejoin still ahead of the 2 Mercedes, but a long way to go with still more than 10 hours remaining. Approaching 1/4 distance in the Hankook 12H Hungary, and drama in the pit lane for Red Camel Racing. To add to the team's engine problems, the Audi had run out of fuel and lost valuable time being pushed up to the refuelling station at the end of the pit lane. Disappointment too for HM Motorsport. After charging from the back of the grid to lead its class, the number 32 Peugeot had to be pushed into the garage for a lengthy stop due to an exhaust failure. After some serious welding and repair work, the car was eventually sent back on its way, the team once again having to play catch-up. Leading the race, the number 20 Porsche of Adrian Amstutz, with the 2 Mercedes now running nose to tail for second place. The number 1 Hoffa Racing entry just ahead of the number 4 SPS Automotive car, which had dropped from first to third. Then the rain began to fall and there was a big accident for Mark Cars Australia. Happily the driver was unharmed, but the first code 60 neutralisation of the race was instigated as the wrecked Ford Focus was recovered. As the rain worsened, race leader Adrian Amstutz joined the rest of the field in pitting for wet tyres.
Yeah, we're happy, but it's only 2 hours into the race, so we will have a long way to go. After Dubai, and this year we did as well Mugello, we know that the race is won not before a 1:28.
Event organisers Creventic pioneered these Code 60 periods as a way of neutralising races without having to put a safety car on track. So called because all the cars have to drive at a maximum 60 kilometres an hour. Once the incident was cleared, the cars got back up to speed. The Stadler Motorsport Porsche continued to lead, but behind there'd been a change for second, with the SPS Automotive Mercedes now ahead of Hoffa Racing. Meanwhile, Team Altram were now beginning to control Class A5, Stephen Pallet now behind the wheel of the Peugeot. But things went from bad to worse for HM Motorsport as Jens Erik Hansen went straight off at the end of the start-finish straight in the number 32 Peugeot. The Code 60 flags came out immediately, while thankfully Hansen was able to walk away from the crash. The car, though, would require some attention and had to be sent to the pits on the back of the recovery truck. 5 hours into the race and Rolf Inishen was back for a second stint in the race-leading Porsche. The number 4 Mercedes just a few seconds behind in second place, and in between them the number 1 Mercedes, which was now a lap down in third. But with Christian Frankenhout now back in the car, the Hoffa Racing Mercedes was going quickly and the Dutchman was trying desperately to get back onto the lead lap on the still damp circuit. A fabulous duel ensured as Inishen, who was the amateur class champion in the German Porsche Carrera Cup in 2013, continued to fend off Frankenhout for quite some time. In the end, though, the Swiss driver had to relent as the Mercedes got the better run exiting the final turn and just about squeezed through into turn 1, though Frankenhout almost dropped back behind on the exit. One Mercedes was then replaced by another as Lance David Arnold began to home in on the race leader. This was turning into a highly entertaining race, More than 5 hours on the clock and now less than half a second covering the top 2 cars.